Hi everyone, it's your girl Desiree and I'm back with another video, and this is basically continuing the topic of growing up unprepared for womanhood. And in this video, I'm going to focus solely on basically rising up socially in society. So I'm going to label it social climbing because that seems to be the term that a lot of people are using here on YouTube. So that's what we'll be focusing on within this video. I apologize because in the last video, I mentioned this and I thought I had already spoke about it. So when I got to it, I was like, "Oh, I already spoke about this. Sorry." And then I kind of just quickly like said some things and moved on to the next topic. But when I listened back, I realized that I didn't speak about it because I know I had been recording it more than once. So sometimes when you record things more than once, you kind of forget like, "Oh yeah, in this particular recording, I didn't mention it." I didn't listen back to it because I wanted to just get it up, but I definitely want to focus on social climbing within this video. So let's just go straight into it. So I want to first talk about like the fact that society has various institutions. So we have family, we have marriage, we have the economy, we have education, we have the media, we have religion. Um, what else do we have? Government. So those are kind of work. Work is another one as well. And family is kind of like one of the foundational ones because a lot of things stem from the family, right? So we all grow up within a family structure, whatever family structure that is. And then a lot of the teachings that we grow up with start with usually the family unit. So family is like a really big institution in society. And with these various institutions, they're all separate, but then they're all connected at the same time. So a lot of times there'll be some overlap. There's overlap between um, family and work, right? There's some overlap between religion and family. Like there's overlap between government and family, right? So there's a lot of overlap between the different things. And the reason why I wanted to bring that up is because when you have women in your life who, and not just women, because it could be your father figures as well, but when you have people in your life who understand the various institutions of society, and I'm talking about like this society in particular, and they are knowledgeable in it and they're wise and they know how to kind of maneuver different parts of society, and then they're able to kind of teach you that and guide you in that and also emulate it through their own life, right? So you get to also watch your mom, your sister, your aunties, your uncles, your father. You get to watch these different people within your family also navigating the workforce, navigating family. You've seen all the different women in your family getting married and how they went about doing that. They may also be teaching you as a young girl and as a teenager growing up how to go about that. You're watching maybe some women in your family, they have their own businesses or they have businesses that they share with their husbands. So you're able to kind of see, oh, how does that work within society? Having your own business, being an entrepreneur. You see the women in your life working, right? So then you see how they kind of navigated that as a woman going into the workforce, especially if they also have children, they also marry. Like, how do they navigate and balance all those things together? Those things you're able to learn when it comes to marriage, the institution of marriage. If you're raised in a household where your father and your mother is married, and they've been married for many, many years, and you're able to see, especially if it's a healthy marriage, you're able to see that and you're like, wow, you get to see the dynamics of how your father is in his role, how your mother is in her role, how she's in her role as a mother and as a wife, how he's in his role as a father and as a husband, and those ways that they're able to interact with each other and also interact with you, their children, and also interact maybe with other family members. You get to see your aunts and your uncle, and those people being married, and maybe your older cousins being married, and different people within your family. So all those things play a major role in you being able to then one day get married if that's something that you choose to do as a woman. But if you didn't have that example at all, um, or even worse, you've had like a horrible example of your parents being maybe divorced at a young age, or maybe there was a lot of abuse in the home. So you may have had a father and a mother who was married, but it was very unhealthy and it was actually a very toxic example. So I think that these various institutions of society, when you have people that can really guide you and, like I said, show you a good example of how they are able to navigate that, that will make a major difference in you growing up as a little girl and growing into your womanhood. So Also, like, how you use your femininity, right? So how you interact with various institutions of society using your femininity at work, using your womanhood at work, um, using it when you're dating and when you're meeting different men, when you wanna get married. Um, Also, like, if you are oh, yeah, education, that was one of the other institutions that I forgot to mention, education. So if you have women in your family who have gone to college or they've gone to different types of forms of education, they can also help guide you within that. But if you didn't have that and nobody in your family went to college, nobody in your family kind of had those type of experiences, it can be maybe a little challenging for you to kind of navigate that. There may be a lot of pressure on you as well to like be the first person in your family to get an education, especially as a woman. So I think that all those things are going to play a role in that as far as you moving up socially and social climbing within society. Oh, yeah, and also, like, when you have women in your family who are, like, very great at, like, being able to navigate the workforce, they're great in, like, being able to understand how to, navigate the institution of marriage and the institution of a family and, the economy, like, they've always had, like, a good job. They or even better, like, they've always been able to know how to make money on their own, so even if they didn't have a job or they had a job, but they wanted to have multiple streams of income. Like that was something that they always were able to do because they knew how to use their femininity and their womanhood. They were very intelligent. They know how to market themselves. Like they know how to navigate society in a way and be very flexible and adaptable so that they can then earn money. That's very important, especially in this day and age. I think I mentioned that in the last video where like everything is so expensive now. So as a woman, if you know how to make money different ways, especially if you don't have to like worry about your reputation. I talked about that at the end and I was like, be careful because yes, as a woman you can make money, but how you go about doing it, you have to know what you're getting yourself into because with the way that things are and with the internet and things like that, you never know how that might affect you 10 years from now when you're looking for work or when you want to start a business within a different realm. Then you may have a hard time if you already have a certain reputation. So I think that's important to think about. But if you have women who have their own businesses or maybe they share business with their husband and you ever like see like those families like where like they'll have like a family business and their daughters like sometimes it's not even just the sons, like sometimes also the daughters, like they'll be inside the store. Like I've seen that even in like Chinese restaurants where like you'll go to order food and there'll even be like girls in there too sometimes. And even if they're not like actually working, they're in that area, they're watching the customers, they're watching their parents take the orders, they're watching their deliveries, like, they're watching how the business runs, and it may not seem like a big deal, but it is, and sometimes they actually do even have the little girls working, like, they'll have them, like, taking the orders, and they'll be learning, like, they're learning a lot because they're learning how to interact with customers, they're learning about how business works. That was not something that I was taught because nobody in my family had a business. So, imagine that little girl later on, she may not wanna have, like, a Chinese restaurant, she may not wanna inherit the restaurant from her family, but she may wanna start her own business on YouTube, or she may wanna start her own business in another area, maybe she wants to do sewing or something else. So at least she has that understanding of how business works, she has the skills, she has parents who understand business, they might even be able to invest in her business if they have the money, they understand how that works. So she's not kinda, like, starting from the ground up with no level of knowledge and no level of support, like, she kinda knows and she understands. Like, some people, their parents will even pass down the business to them, and then they may want to continue that business. So now they're inheriting that business, they're inheriting a certain amount of wealth, so they don't have to start from scratch. All those things make a major difference in that person then being able to then be successful within the economy. So I think that that plays a major role, and I don't like when people try to be disingenuous and be like, "Oh, it doesn't make a big deal about if you have family who has money, like, you need to just work hard and, who cares? Like, as long as you work hard." It's like nobody's discounting working hard. Nobody's discounting that you can do it if you put your mind to it. But let's be real, most businesses are not successful, and having a business is very, very challenging. And it takes many, many years for a business to be successful. So if you have no capital, you have no wealth, it's going to make it very challenging for you because even people who have wealth and even for people who have a leg up, it's challenging for them. They have to still work extremely hard. So imagine for somebody who does not have that. at all. So to say that not having it doesn't make a difference, it surely does. And that's why you'll see so many people creating and generating wealth and passing it down generation after generation because they understand how important wealth is. If they didn't think it was a big deal, they wouldn't be still trying to hold on to their wealth and they wouldn't be continuing trying to pass it down to by generation to generation. These people know how important wealth is. They just don't want you to know that. Okay. So yeah, so when it comes to like the media too, like if you have an older sister, like I've actually seen this on social media where like somebody would have like an older sister or something, and then their older sister would like kind of teach them how to like navigate social media. So the older sister may have like a TikTok or a Instagram or YouTube. Or some it could even be the opposite because you don't have to always learn these things only from older people in your family. It could be from younger people too. It's just a matter of you having had that influence within your family. And they're teaching you how to navigate these spaces, and then you learn how to do that, and you're able to rise very well within these spaces and make really, really good money. So even within the media, same thing with the entertainment industry. People who have had parents who are already in the entertainment industry, they have a leg up. That doesn't mean they're automatically going to be successful. No, but it still makes a difference in them having like a sister who's in the entertainment industry, having a mother who's in the entertainment industry, having a father who's in the entertainment industry. It makes a major difference in them being able to get the funding to create an album if they're going to be a singer, to have the access to different types of people within the industry so that they can move in the right spaces. When you don't know nobody and you're not even in that industry, you have to start from scratch. But if you already have family within that industry, they can kind of help you maneuver and move through those spaces and know who to talk to, also who to avoid, maybe even how to be careful of what kind of deals you sign. All those things you need to have people that really understand what's going on with that industry. Otherwise, you will get bamboozled. And this is why, like, a lot of people, especially if they come from the hood, they have no understanding of business, they have no understanding of money, they have no understanding of the of contracts and legal stuff. They have no understanding of the games and the stuff that goes on in the industry, and they go ahead and they sign these deals, and they're literally signing their life away because they don't know exactly what they're signing. They see the money, they see the stuff that they're being offered and given, and they get excited. I mean, who wouldn't, especially if you come from the hood and you come from nothing? So this is how they take advantage of people. And this is why the people who have owned their masters and they try to encourage other people to own their masters, they don't like that. They don't want people owning their masters. They don't want people owning their own stuff, having control over their music, even when they pass away. No, they want to be able to control everything. So where as an artist, you are basically poor and you basically have nothing, even though they're working you to the bone for everything that they can get out of you. You're touring, you're doing all these things, you're so tired. Some of these people are literally taking substances, they're doing all type of stuff because they are losing their minds, because they're being overworked. Then they're also being in the entertainment industry, and who knows the things that they're actually witnessing and experiencing in it. So now they're doing all of that just for them not to still even own their own music. You know what I mean? It's actually very scary. So I think that when you have people that are within these spaces, or your family may not specifically be within those industries, but they have connections with people who are in those industries. Your family has social capital. That was something that I learned when I was in college. Capital is not just financial. Capital can also be social. Social capital is very important. When your father knows the mayor, when your father knows certain judges and certain attorneys and certain people within your neighborhood, when your father knows certain people within accounting industry or marketing industry or whatever, and he has these different connections to these different people, your mother has connections to different people. It makes a major difference. It makes a major difference. But like I said, it doesn't mean that you're automatically going to be successful. Obviously, you have to still do the work. You still have to, you know, get into it and do what you need to do to maintain. But getting your foot in the door, that's usually the hardest part. Getting your foot in the door and making the connections and having people really want to support you, that's usually the hardest part because they don't know you. So I'm like, why should I support you? Why should I give you money? Why should I sign you on this deal? I don't even know you. You know how many other people want to have a deal too? So when they have other when they know that you are the daughter of somebody who is already in that field, or they know that your father or your mother know this person, know that person, and they respect your parents, it will make a big difference. It really will make a big difference. So, let's move on. Let's see here. Yeah, so how to be flexible around men and women. As a woman, I talked about that briefly. I read that yesterday when I uploaded the video. But yeah, that's very important to know how to be flexible. Very important. Because you could tell when somebody's comfortable with themselves, they know how to be adaptable, they know how to like move like water within certain spaces, they know how to change up things when they need to, because the economy is constantly changing, the media is constantly changing, culture is constantly changing. I mean, there are some things that are stationary and that have been kind of like that way for all time. Like, you know how they say there's nothing new under the sun. So that is true. But the way that things are moving and the way that we are going about doing things have been changing. And you have to be very flexible and adaptable as a woman to meet the times. And when you have women in your life who know how to do that and they can teach you that from a young age, it makes a very big difference. So you're not stagnant. Because that's one of the biggest things. A lot of women that were raising me, they weren't taught those things of how to be fluid, how to move like water. So it's like just go to college, get an education, do this. But what if that doesn't work? So there were times when I was stagnant because I didn't know which way to go. And then I had to teach myself how to like try different things, but it takes longer because you're having to learn these things from scratch. You know what I mean? So it was a lot of like frustration that I was going through. And then there were other women that I would run into and they knew how to like make money on the side. They had certain type of skills that they learned from a young age from their father or from their mother because these were things that were instilled in them from a young age. So they if things didn't work out for them going a traditional way, they knew how to go a different route and they had the skills and the strategy and the way about they had the strategy and they had the mindsets that were needed to go along those other paths. But if you don't have that, you have to develop those things. And that takes longer, you know. And another thing too is that when you grow up in a household where there's a lot of trauma, that makes it even more challenging for you to become socially to social climb. And that's another conversation. I could do a whole nother video on that and how trauma can affect you being able to rise professionally, financially, and so forth. But that also plays a major role. And when you were raised without guidance, and when you were raised without those protections, and you were raised among certain forms of trauma, it can make it harder for you to social climb. I'm not saying that it can't happen because we've seen a lot of stories of women who have come from trauma and they are doing well. But even in those stories, sometimes, depending on if those women were able to heal, because unfortunately, some people they're able to make it despite their trauma, but they haven't healed from their trauma. So then they'll get to a certain level of success, but then you still see their trauma. And we've seen a lot of examples like that, where women will be like major, like celebrities, they'll make crazy money, they're no longer in the hood anymore, they're doing well, but then we're still seeing certain behaviors, and people are like, well, how come they still acting like that when they are so successful? And it's like, just because somebody becomes successful doesn't mean that they automatically heal from their trauma. If they were growing up in the hood and they've been through a lot of trauma, just because they're living in a mansion now in Beverly Hills does not mean that the trauma has automatically disappeared. That's not how trauma works. So I think that yes, we have examples of women being able to kind of come out of those low places and rise up. And that's one of the great things about this current climate, that a lot of women have been able to rise up professionally, they have been able to rise up economically, they have been able to rise up business-wise. I mean, women are really making lots of strides, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that these women may not still be struggling with a lot of emotional pain and other things that they may be experiencing because, like I said, just because you rise up successfully within society doesn't mean that you still don't have some of those internal challenges. So it's important to still work on those things within yourself as well. It's easy to kind of like just go hustle mode, go grind mode, and just shut off that part and just focus on the money. And I know how easy that can be, but we have to make sure that we're doing the internal work as well as women, especially if we've been through various forms of trauma growing up. So I'm going to start wrapping up this video because I don't want it to be too long. But oh yeah, how to deal with rejection, jealousy, hate, bullying, and so on. So when you're growing up as a little girl, a part of social climbing is also learning about the various behaviors of other people and knowing how to navigate that. Knowing how to navigate that. So if you were like me and you experience a lot of like people talking negatively about you, people making fun of you, then that does a number on your self-esteem. It does a number on your self-image, especially if you already have other forms of trauma that you're already experiencing as a little girl. So it's important for the women in your lives to have those type of conversations with you about why you may be experiencing those type of things from other girls. What can you do, right, to deal with those things that you're experiencing with those other girls? And what steps that can you take so you can heal and kind of grow into your womanhood so that you can kind of transcend those things or even use those things to your benefit? You can even use those. That's another thing too. When you're raised by women who are very strategic, they teach you how to use hate and jealousy to your advantage. Oh, you want to talk crap about me and talk about how I'm ugly and how I'm so skinny, I'm so this. Okay, cool. But I'm gonna use that to my advantage. I'm gonna be strategic in how I'm gonna move about in school and move about in these spaces using all of the hate that you are spewing my way. So now when you start a business or now when you go into college or you go into the workplace and you deal with similar things, you know how to kind of maneuver because you've already learned that growing up. You're not going to be crushed by it as easily. You're not going to um, be insecure by it as easily. It doesn't mean it may not affect you, but it's going to affect you differently because you know how to kind of like take those things and kind of like use it to your benefit. And you also know how to set boundaries and stand up for yourself and do it in a way that's strategic because you can like try to set boundaries. You ever like had somebody try to set boundaries? And I've even done this because sometimes when you struggle, when I know for me, I'm like a recovering people pleaser. So so sometimes when you set boundaries, they're not always done in like the healthiest way. So you could be almost come sometimes almost like borderline disrespectful and you don't even realize that's what you're doing because you're trying to set boundaries because you're so used to people feeling like they can walk all over you. So there's like healthy ways of going about doing things. And you also have to be strategic because sometimes you could try to set boundaries with people and they could actually try to use it against you. Especially like if you are already seen as like, oh, she's being angry or she's being this or that, even though you may be the victim. So there's kind of ways about how to go about things, and you can't always control that because sometimes no matter how you maneuver things, people are still going to make you out to be the villain anyway. So I think that some people are just committed. That's one thing I had to learn. Some people are just committed to seeing you in a negative way, and no matter how much you try to apologize, no matter how much you may try to maneuver or strategize, they're going to still paint you in that light, and other people may even believe it. So there's really nothing you could do about it. However, sometimes you can learn certain strategies and ways to maneuver those type of negative things that are going to be thrown at you. And when you have women around you who are wise and kind of have learned how to navigate those type of things, and they can teach you that from a young age, it makes a major difference. But when you haven't learned those things, especially if you've dealt with trauma, those things can be very crushing and they can really kind of like hold you back if you're not careful. So, for example, if somebody is always like, for example, for me, like if you've always been like kind of called ugly a lot growing up and you've been also made fun of because of how you look, people making fun of you, like in my case, because of how small I am and stuff like that. So that played like a number on like my self image, my body image and stuff like that. So then when I became an adult, like I feel like there were times when I would kind of hold back from doing certain things that I really wanted to do because I was always concerned. What if people think that I'm unattractive? What if people think that I'm too skinny? What if like you have all these different like fears because of the trauma that you went through for so many years. Like it wasn't just like 2, 3 years, like it was like 20, almost 20 plus years of that. And I still have experienced it even in my adulthood. So I think that I've had to do a lot of internal work to work through those things so that I can still show up for work. I can still show up, I still went ahead and finished college. I still did things that I needed to do despite the fears that I had and despite the things that I had experienced because I had to push through. But it took a lot because those things can really hold you back and it can cause you not to pursue your goals, especially if the goals include you having to put yourself out there. That can be very scary for anybody, but especially for somebody who's had those type of experiences. So I think that if you to kind of wrap this up, if you haven't been raised to learn these type of things, then it is important for you to take an inventory of your life and see the areas where you may need to improve on, whether that be etiquette, whether that be your self image, how you see yourself physically, um, how you perceive yourself, like as far as your confidence, When it comes to like your sexuality, like how are you, if you are you comfortable with it? Do you have a healthy relationship with sexuality? Do you have a healthy relationship with dating and with the whole idea of marriage, if that's something that you want, even if you don't want to get married, but still having like a healthy idea of it, um, and a realistic idea of it, right? Also, when it comes to basically making money, like, is that something that you may need to improve on as far as, like, being able to make money and maneuver that area of life? Like, whatever area of life that you may be struggling with, and maybe all of the above, as far as, like, social climbing, but kinda making an inventory of that and then seeing what you need to research and what you need to work on, and sometimes, like, when you get older, the women in your life are more open to talking to you about certain things. Like, you may not have been taught those things when you were younger, and you're really, like, maybe be upset about that because you weren't prepared. But maybe now that you're older, maybe the women in your life may be a little more open with talking to you about some of the things that you weren't talked to about when you were younger. So you can ask your mother about marriage, about dating, about children, about parenting. Like, you can ask her those things, and maybe she may be more open to talking about it now that you're older. If not, sometimes, you can finding another woman who's wise and older and who can kind of like give you some guidance. There's also a lot of resources on social media now. So many older women are like starting YouTube channels and they're sharing their wisdom and their guidance with younger women. So there's so much more resources now, which is great. Obviously, you have to use discernment and you have to kind of, how they say, you listen to it and you kinda, like, take what you can take and then throw out the rest, right? So you don't wanna, like, just follow people word for word every single thing, you need to have discernment, but there are some people on here that do give pretty good guidance, and they have the wisdom, and, um, and they can really help kind of guide you as a younger woman when it comes to these areas. So I hope that this has been helpful. I think social climbing is important. I'm not saying that you need to be hanging out with rich people. If that's not what you want. I'm not saying that you got to be making the top dollar if that's not what you want. Everybody has their own goals when it comes to being in society. Some people want to rise to the top. Some people just want to come out the hood. Some people, everybody has their thing. But whatever it is, it's gonna require some level of strategy and it's going to require some level of experience and understanding. And when you were raised around women and also men too, who are able to kind of teach you and guide you on how to maneuver in society, it makes a big difference. If not, then you're going to have to reparent yourself in those areas because it is very important. And I think a lot of us have been very stagnant as women, and we could probably be much further ahead financially, mentally, emotionally, spiritually if we are able to work through some of those blockages that we have from our childhood, being able to really push past those things and have the courage to step out there and try new things and learn, right? And ask questions and research and see where life takes us as far as whatever calling and path it is for your life, right? Everybody has different callings on their life. So that's just basically what I want to talk about that. And maybe another video, I kind of talk about some of the things that I've done to kind of social climb. I'm still not anywhere where I would like to be as far as that, but I'm grateful for the strides that I have made. I'm trying to learn to be grateful for where I'm at and not to focus on regrets and the things that I wish I would have done differently because that can be very daunting. So I'm trying my best to grow and just kind of see things to where I'm at now and move forward instead of focusing so much on the past. So that's easier said than done, but I'm trying my best to do that. And if y'all are interested, I can do another video talking about some of the things that I've done to get myself to where I'm at now. Yes, it has been a very slow pace. It's taken a long time, but everybody's different and everybody's path is different. And given the things that I've been through in my life, it makes sense more and more why it took me this amount of time. It makes more and more sense why certain things didn't turn out for me when I was younger. And I'm kind of like, sometimes I get a little upset about it, but I'm also grateful because I'm like, I know I wouldn't have been able to handle those things when I was younger. Not where I was at that time. Yes, I had a certain level of wisdom for a young woman. Like, yeah, I really was pretty intelligent and I did have some wisdom, even though I mean I had always made the best decisions. However, emotionally and mentally, I wasn't able to always handle certain responsibilities. So I understand it more looking back now and that I wasn't ready for certain things. So you have to also give yourself grace as well. Some of us, we kind of feel kind of behind, but I've learned that it's not too late and you can still go out there and pursue the things you wanted to pursue as a woman, like going to college, starting a business or being an entrepreneur. You don't have to start a business if you don't want. There's different ways to make money, but yeah, getting married, having children, whatever it is that you feel called to do, there's still time to strategize and be honest with yourself and to heal and to do what you need to do so that you can get to those areas of life and being realistic with what it will take from you, right? And not only seeing things from a romantic standpoint, like, oh my gosh, I just want to have a lot of money one day. Oh my gosh, I just want to get married one day. Oh my gosh, I just want to have children one day. And just having this like romanticize idea of things and not being realistic and not realizing that a lot of those things come with major responsibility and preparation and maintenance. So I think it's important to do that. So yeah, take care, y'all. And I will talk to y'all again soon. Hope this was helpful. Like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Take care. Bye.